I have a question for you. Let's say, hypothetically, if everything in my life, everything down to the little details, went exactly the way that I wanted it to go, would I have peace?
You would think you did, but you wouldn't.
What if I never had to work again? Somehow it worked out. I didn't have to do a thing in my life, no responsibilities. Would I have peace?
Again, I think you would tell yourself you did, but you wouldn't.
So then what is peace and how do we get it? That's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to Swedenborg
I
and Life.
hesitated to answer it.
Yeah, it's like what's the answer to that?
Question.
Welcome to Swedenborg and Life, everybody. Thanks for joining. Dr. Jonathan Rose, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Such a pleasure.
I mean, you could thank me for coming on the show. It's our show, but it's just like what you're supposed to do is thank someone for coming on the show.
Right.
All of you watching and listening, thanks so much for listening. If you want to become a member of the Swedenborg Foundation, you can get access to like exclusive Q&As and behind the scenes content. So link in the description, check that out. Today, the show is about how do you get heavenly peace? And it's like, how do you have life go the way that life should go? I feel like life is a lot less peaceful than you'd want it. And there's this mystical sort of state Swedenborg describes you can get in where everything's good.
And the examples you described, it feels so good when you hit those rare moments of vanquishing your enemies or things going your way or something that's been hanging in midair for years, it resolves and, you know.
It was in 1973. I had just vanquished all my enemies. My bank account had 100 gold doubloons in it. It was great. All right, so this is the quote I want to start on. We got a series of quotes from Swedenborg here.
Okay.
That take us deep into this thing that he's discovered. So the first one is from Heaven and Hell. He says that if he's going to learn about what peace is like, he goes and talks to the masters of peace, which are angels in the afterlife. And this is what they have to say about peace.
Okay.
I have talked with angels about peace as well, and have told them that on earth they call it peace, so it's you and I, when wars and conflicts between nations are over. War and peace is pretty fair.
Of course, yeah, right.
Or enmities and disagreements between individuals. And they think inner peace is simply the peace of mind we have when anxieties are banished, or especially the relief and delight when things turn out well for us.
Which is tangible. I mean, you feel it when...
Hey, man, if I raise my hand first day of class and said, isn't peace when things turn out well for you? You can't like 10 points from Gryffindor for that. That's a pretty good answer. The angels have responded, though, that this peace of mind, this relief and delight when anxieties are banished and things turn out well for us, may look like effects of peace, but they do not come from real peace, except in people who are focused on heavenly goodness. This is because peace occurs only in that goodness.
Wow. It's fun to think about these angels who, as you know very well, Swedenborg says, are all just what I call ex-people. They're people who lived in this world and
your grandma
passed on. That's right. Ancestors and there's nobody else up there. So they went through this experience that we're going through now. And so they know what it feels like to be anxious. They know what it feels like, the relief that you get. Or the joy. You've seen those photographs of the end of like the Second World War where everybody's kissing everybody in the streets. And,
yes.
The tremendous...
It was just a big ring of kiss, 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 kiss. Yeah.
Such a relief to have that over, never knowing until like the day before, like, is this thing ever going to end? And then for angels to say, and basically, that's nothing. There's more.
Yeah,
there's more.
Because what's in this quote is like a wish list, is a Christmas list of what's the, if you could have Aladdin's genie pop out and I can give you 3 wishes. Well, I want it to be that there's no, nobody's trying to attack me. I'm not arguing with anyone. Things turn out well for me.
Yep.
That's what I want.
And I feel non-anxious. I feel comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah, I get.
That's great.
I get what I want. But what Swedenborg is saying is there's something deeper. Like not denying that those things those things feel good. Mm-hmm. We've experienced them from time to time. But the thing is, they don't last. It doesn't last. You know what? I've had things where I said, what I want is this. That is the thing that I want. And then I get that thing and, it's actually not as good as I thought. Or very quickly, like your mind will have trained you on, if this thing happened, because this thing is not happening, you're miserable. And, this thing is crushing you because it did not happen. Like this thing you're working on didn't work well or something. If only it worked well. If only it'll pound you away on that for weeks and months. And then the thing happens and you're like, I did it. And then your mind will come in and say, yeah, but what about this other thing? And it will feel exactly the same. So many times, I recently had to go and do this trip where I had to go do a speaking engagement, and I always see this. I was nervous about it, and it was like, what if this goes wrong? What if I get sick for it? All these things, and I remember the day of it. Is it going to go well? And then it went, and I had pictured in my mind for so long before it. Like I had this busy patch, and I thought, once I get done this busy stuff, and it's just like I'm back at home, things are easy, we're doing, I'm going to be in bliss. That's me now. And I got this whole other set of stuff I'm worrying about.
Right. That's right. And it's Swedenborg doing his old trick again, it strikes me, which is that he takes a common word that we all use. Yeah. We know that word. You learn that word when you're young. So this peace.
Yep.
Peace in the household, peace among people in your community, peace in the nation or around the world, and so on, and people who give their lives to, wanting to establish that peace. And then he says, okay, I will let you call that peace, but I'm telling you, there's another thing that's not even on the menu. You haven't even got to it yet. And it's so much better than what you think is peaceful.
It's the soul of the thing you're looking for. When you think, if I just got that thing to work out the way it is, then I'd feel this way. I'd exit off stage and the credits would roll, and life is... But there is that does exist, but you don't get it just from those things. And the headline, I think, in this quote is, those do not come... Those things we're talking about, if life goes well for you, if you get what you want, if enmities cease, those aren't part of actual peace, except in people who are focused on heavenly goodness. This is because peace occurs only in that goodness. So somehow peace, the state of happiness, occurs in whatever heavenly goodness is. I feel like this is a clue, or this is a major. We've been digging in the dirt and we've uncovered this artifact. Oh, it's in heavenly goodness.
And goodness generally has to do with our values, our purpose, kind of what we're doing with our life, and also priorities. So I'm thinking, if you could be a pretty awful person, and so you get what you want, and it just makes you a little more awful or something, so you relax because you got what you were aiming for. But he's really saying there's only a certain motivation that gets you there. There's some feeling that's reserved for people who have this kind of God-aligned motivation.
Yeah, it can't be,
and that you don't get it for the other scrambling for what you want.
When you were saying you can get what you want, it makes you into a worse person. I was thinking of that, like the villain laugh in every movie. When the villain is getting what he wants, he loves it. He's happy. He seems like he's at peace. He's the I don't know. New York City has exploded, and he's my plan is going. Yeah. But that's not peace. That's not going to last because Batman's going to come and do whatever.
Right.
Superman's going to crush him. Something's going to happen. But also you just know, like, that's not the state to which we should all be trying. And that guy's peace is misery for the rest of us. So it can't really be peace.
Yeah, the universe is set up in such a way that it's things that benefit other people that give you the greatest, satisfaction inwardly.
Okay, so if you at home want heavenly peace, Easy. All you got to do is be involved in heavenly good.
Yeah. So we got the answer now.
So
That's
I don't
good.
know yet what that means, but we will by the end of the podcast. But I want to say that this is a detour. I almost took this out of the quotes because I wondered if, can people handle the truth? But here's a passage about Swedenborg saying that if you're having trouble feeling this peace, that's fine because you can barely feel it. Well, I'll let him say it.
Okay. Yeah.
This is from Heaven and Hell 284. Anyone who has not experienced heaven's peace cannot know what the peace is that angels enjoy. Again, taking the word and I'm expanding it. As long as we are in our bodies, we cannot accept heaven's peace. So we cannot perceive it.
Cannot. Like constitutionally incapable. I don't know exactly what he means. I don't know if he just means every second that you're in your body, because when he's writing this, he still has a physical body.
Yes.
Or does he just mean if you're in that sort of physical state, which most of us are in most of the time?
Let me give you something here.
Okay,
so he says, we cannot perceive it, our perception being on the natural level. In order to perceive it, we need to be the kind of person who, as to thought, can be raised and taken out of the body and brought into the spirit so as to be with angels.
Okay, well, that's not
that's easy.
Big ask.
You just do that. Since I have perceived heaven's peace in this way, this is through his spiritual experiences, I can describe it, but not in words as it really is, because human words are inadequate.
I love it.
I'm going to describe it with words, but the words ain't going to do nothing. Using words, I can only describe what it is like compared to that peace of mind that people have who are content in God.
Okay, so the kind of a baseline reference point is going to be that there is a sort of peace that is known in this world when you're content in God. Even if things aren't going that well, there's something inside that feels like it's going to be all right. It's okay.
Yeah.
I've been through worse.
What's it mean to be content in God? I would think that's the idea that, I'm going through my life and my life is hard and I don't like it. But it turns out I didn't realize there's this sort of invisible, gigantic friend that I have who, it turns out, everything was made by my gigantic friend. And actually my whole life was planned out and thought out and exists because he's got this plan and he's moving me along. And actually, I can trust the way that life goes. And goodness is important. The more that I understand that, and that's real to me, that's different. That's a different kind of peace than I'm at peace because I got my bank account and my enemies have been crushed.
Right.
So that's a certain kind of peace, that I'm content in God, meaning I know he's got this, or something. Like what does it mean to be content in God?
Yeah, well, I think that's it. And it's interesting that it's not all the way to what he would call peace, but I picture sort of a quiet feeling that at some level things are okay, even when there's a crisis going on, or the way he describes it, it's pretty deep within. It's not out on the surface, because your surface, your lower self, he describes us as having multiple layers to us, and that outer self just goes through a lot of drama. If the money didn't come in, you're freaking out, and whatever it is.
And that's fine. That's how that part of you is wired.
Yeah,
it needs to be wired like that.
It needs to be wired like that,
because you got to take care of yourself.
If you identify with that wholly, you may be missing this little quiet thing that's in there, the still small voice kind of thing that feels more okay. And I think that there's those amazing statistics that from all over the world, from what I understand, that as people age, they get happier. You know what I mean? And it makes zero sense, because your body's falling apart. Like if things are, if it was just an outer world, that should not make you happier. I lost the use of this leg or something. It's like, why are you? So you're happier now, and yet they can measure this, and it's true of different cultures and all over the world. And I wonder if it's a little bit of this increase of like that contented, there's something in there that even though your leg's not working,
Yeah.
it still feels like, but life is good. Actually,
okay.
It's better than you think.
I think what I'm hearing, the subtext of what I'm hearing, is you're bragging about how much happier you are than me. So the peace, I love that. The peace of God, the contentment in God. I think I got a clear picture of it. Again, I'll talk about this speaking engagement that I had, which is like, I have to go out and tell people about Swedenborg, which is exciting and good, but it's outside my comfort zone and it's an ordeal. And I've had a number of these in my life where that's coming up and I know it's on the calendar and I feel like I have to go and do a good job. And there's two kinds of sort of peace you can have around it. One is, I'm going to try to make this go well. And if it goes well, then I'm going to be happy. But the peace of God is, however you want this to go, great. Like, do your thing. And so I had a moment where that came to a head for me. So, do you know sleeping? Like, you got to do sleeping.
Yeah. It's popular for some people.
I didn't get the memo on that. Well, for periods of my life, I've had trouble sleeping and trouble getting to sleep. Like if I'm going to be on an airplane or something, I can't sleep on that. Yeah. Sometimes I'll lie awake for a long time. It's gotten better, actually. As I've gotten older, who needs legs when you can sleep? Right. As I've gotten older, that's gotten a little better. But especially on trips or something, sometimes that can sneak up on you. And I've had some times when I have to go give a speech and I sleep poorly, and that makes me like, am I going to have enough energy? And what? Right. So the night before, the next morning at 11, I had to go and give this talk. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go to bed. I sort of like the thing I ate made it a little funny. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go to bed. Here we go. This is going to go great. And I did go to bed after a little while. And then I woke up and I thought, well, I'm awake. It's night. And I was like, well, I wonder what time it is. And I looked at the clock and it was like 1:30. And I had this feeling of like, I don't know if I'm going to go back to sleep, because I know from history that sometimes you don't.
Sometimes you don't.
Under conditions like that. And
your mind starts thinking about the talk or whatever it is.
Or and you just have like some gland is like, okay, here we go. Like I have no idea what's going on in your life, but I'm going to pump you full of wake up juice. And that's I don't know. Right. I don't know who's steering what down there. And I had this moment of like, okay, I gotta just, okay, whatever you want to do, divine providence, whatever you want to do. If I'm tired and I do a bad job, like whatever you want to do, divine providence. That was like trying to have the peace of God. Like, okay, whatever you want to do is fine. Whatever you want to do, God is like, we're going to do this. And I know that you've got not just me in mind, but you got everybody who would come to that talk, and you've got like my future in mind, like, you know what's going on. So I was like, the outer self part of me was not into that, but the inner self kind of was. And I think that calmed me down. I did end up going to sleep and like woke up and going to sleep and woke up. But just to me, that's like, I got to make sure everything goes well. But then everything, even if you get everything to go well, like it's gone well a lot of times, the next one's up and you're like, well, if this doesn't go well, it's over. There's not really peace in that. It doesn't
carry over, does it? No, really doesn't matter how many, on that outer level, doesn't matter how many successes are chalked up in one column.
Yeah.
You still think this one could go very, very badly. And
yeah, and it could. I think it's because the peace of I'm successful is a different peace, is not really peace. Being involved in heavenly good, content in God, that's what peace actually is. It's a different thing. It's a different fish. Is that a saying? No. I don't think it is, but it's a different fish. You know what I mean?
It is a different fish. I know what you mean. Oh, it's a very different species.
There's that fish.
Yeah, it's shaped entirely differently. Yeah.
All right. Let's go on to let's delve into what this kind of peace is, because you can spend your whole life chasing the wrong kinds of peace.
That's for sure.
You want what peace really is, but you think you're going to find these other places. So let's see if we can make sure we're headed in the right direction. This is from Heaven and Hell 288. Since heaven's peace is we're about to get a bunch of, he just gives you so many things. Like, by the way, I'm going to cram this divine truth into the preamble to what I'm about to say next. So don't sleep on this first sentence here.
Right.
Since heaven's peace is a divine blessedness that profoundly affects the essential goodness within angels.
Wow, it's a blessedness that affects the goodness. So their goodness, which I don't think of as being a thing exactly, but their goodness is something that can be affected by this divine blessedness. So it's coming down from God and it affects this goodness in them. That's the responsive part in them.
This is the physics of how peace works.
Yeah.
But what's it before a comma? What's that called? Is that a preposition or a like? What I read to you there is just everything before the first comma.
Yeah, right.
That's
just right.
So we're not even into the sentence yet, but already he's like, okay. So that's what peace is. This is talking about how it affects the angels. It does not come to their open perception.
Not even theirs.
Except, this is how you experience peace, except through a heartfelt delight when they are involved in the goodness of their life. A pleasure when they hear something true that is in accord with their goodness, and an exhilaration of mind when they perceive the union of the two.
Doesn't sound too bad. Those three, that pleasure and delight. And
what is that thing? What is he talking about?
But it's interesting that he divides it in these three pieces that are a lot like what he talks about, like love and wisdom and usefulness, or it's got that same sort of three feeling to it, doesn't it? That their hearts are lit up when they're feeling like they're able to do the good that they want to do in the world or in whatever realm. Then they're lit up by the truth. There's some insight that gives them some pleasure or delight or whatever word he used in there. And then there's that other satisfaction of getting things done.
The union of the two.
When they come together, they're productive. He talks about that so much, doesn't he? That heat and light, that's what makes plants germinate. And that, if you only have one or the other, it doesn't happen. So when the two of them come together is really when it moves forward. So it's like, that's so satisfying that I picture over the course of eternity, that's happening more and more. And things that have been sort of hanging there just, they come together and click.
Yeah. And, in that description, it's nothing about what's going on externally.
No.
In their lives.
No, that's right. And it's something that it's amazing to me that he's not even saying what it is. It's just angels can't perceive what it really is, but this is just the symptoms.
That's right.
That they get.
That's right.
Are these wonderful things I'd give anything for.
People at home are probably right now upset, and they're like, what? I'm trying to learn about heavenly peace. Why are you talking about angels and what they're doing?
And what they can't feel.
Well, yeah, like this is, I don't care. I'm talking about myself. But angels, it's just people who are living life the way it's supposed to be lived, the way it was designed to be lived.
And they're not perfect. They're growing and learning all the time, and they're humble about it.
You can be an angel while you're in this world. Angel is a state of life. Angel is a state of being. Stone's throw from here, there's the campus of the Academy of the New Church Secondary School. So there's a school that you know this, I know this. It was based on Swedenborg. So around the campus, they have these stones that are carved with different parts of Swedenborg's writings.
I've seen that.
So you can walk around the campus and see those little things. One of the quotes they chose, which is I think is a chapter heading from Heaven and Hell, is something like, "It's not so hard to lead the life that leads to heaven." Well, I know he doesn't say lead twice in there. It's not. It says something like this: "It's not so hard to live the life that leads to heaven, as is believed." It's not so hard to go to lead the life that leads to heaven, as is perceived. And I was thinking to myself, if I was a person who didn't really think about that religion was good, and I didn't think there was God and stuff, I would read that and I'd say, that is so weird. That is so weird that you're trying to sell me this idea that everything we do in life is about trying to get you to this certain place, which is called heaven. You got to get to that place. Like there's this big wide open world, and now everything is about trying to get to that place. That's it's just a weird equation for life. But that's a misunderstanding. Heaven is not a place. Heaven is a state of life. So I thought, what would be something that's not the same, but it's like an equivalent category. So if you had a stone that said, it's not so hard to live the life that leads to wealth, as is believed. Then people would start to think, oh, okay, they're talking about a certain lifestyle that probably wherever that quote came from means like, well, don't spend more than you make and wake up early and whatever it is that.
Yeah, the choices that you make. Yeah,
Invest
how
in
you
the
take on
stock
debt
market.
Or how you, yeah, right.
Don't do your credit cards. Don't go out to eat so much. Whatever that is, then you understand. Oh, wealth is a destination you can try to get to that anyone anywhere can. Yes, I understand. It's expansive, but there is a path to it. So that's what. So I'm not trying to.
And you're already, everybody's on that path. You wouldn't call everybody wealthy.
Yeah.
But they all exist in a financial world in some degree or another, and so you're already on that path.
So
and it's sort of like, how can I improve things?
Yeah.
As I'm on this path.
Yeah. Wherever my particular life, where can I find my wealth? Wherever my life is. Now, that's a dangerous example because I'm not trying to entangle those two in your mind. I'm not trying to say like that it's necessarily great to go pursue wealth. Some people do that for bad reasons. And I'm not saying that everyone can or is in a position to, but I'm just saying wealth is this state of being rather than a place. Heaven is a state of being.
Yes,
so if we say it's not so hard to live the life that leads to heaven, heaven is a state in which you live like angels live.
Yeah.
Wherever you are in your life, whatever continent you're on, whatever you're doing here in the afterlife, heaven is a state of being in that place. So that's why if we're sitting here talking to you, and this is why Swedenborg comes and tells us this is how the angels are doing it, because they're all living the life of heaven. You can live that life here.
And the beautiful analogy pops to mind of the Exodus story where these people's situation on the face of it is pretty miserable. They just escaped slavery, but now they're out in the wilderness. They don't have enough to eat. They don't have enough to drink and all that. But they're being led. There's this pillar of cloud, pillar of fire, and just stage by stage, okay, we'll get you over here. All right, now we set up camp. Now we go over here. Now you get the 10 Commandments. Now we go over here. This happens, or you fight these enemies. And it's a picture of how you're already, you're on that journey. Even if it doesn't look very good, it's mainly about how do you get to that next step, what guides you.
And if you want to know what's going on your journey, whoever you are out there, God is leading you to become the kind of person who wants and can accept heavenly peace.
Yeah.
That's what's going on.
Yeah,
I got us
right.
way off. Like we're not even done this quote, but like I went on this tirade there. We're because this is like so cool. It's so cool. What it's talking about is so real and just and fair and sensible and rational, egalitarian. We're not talking about something that makes life weirder. A lot of times people will look at the way that religion is and you take which everyone knows the character of life, and you try to cram it into this weird idea of how life is.
Right.
But what I love about Swedenborg is that the answers to like what is something that sounds like a religious question, like what is heavenly peace, the answer to that is, the peace of heaven is any time that you're living your life based on a love for doing what is good, seeing and finding and rejoicing when you find these truths that make it so you can live that good life, and then putting that into action. That's a state of peace that will lead you to peace that leads in that people would live in heaven. Oh, that's actually great. That goes right along with life.
And the image of the manna in the wilderness is like that little piece that you get, even at you. They have a destination. They're going to the Holy Land, but you're still getting something along the way. It's not like you get nothing and then you get there and you get everything once you get there. No, you're getting fed. Every single piece of it is its own satisfaction.
Elsewhere in his writings, even though we read this quote, which makes it seem like you can't feel it at all when you're in your body, elsewhere he says you do feel it. It's just the volume's way down. Like in this world,
down. Right?
The ego, like all the pleasures of insanity or the influence of what Swedenborg would call the hells on you, all the pleasures of like, I'm going to crush you, I want sensory gratification, everything that's negative and nasty, that's loud and it's intense and it has a big draw on it.
Yeah.
The pleasures and the rewards of doing what's good, they're there, but they're a little like, they're nice to meet you. Quiet. Like, no, you sit there. They're meek and they're mild, but it's building. And that when you go into the afterlife, the thing that makes heaven heaven is once you come into the spirit, that stuff just, all those seeds you were planted just explode into life. And you suddenly, everything that was sort of fuzzy and intangible, all the goodness that you've cultivated, all the love in there, you just feel it like crazy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it sounds amazing. After you pass on, realizing that these things that were just a small thing that was quiet and you didn't know what that was, turned out, oh, that's really good that you did that. It's really good that you had that feeling. And
that's how everything good is. If you're gonna, like, I'm gonna eat healthily, so that, because now I'm getting old and I can't just eat anything. It's not that fun. It's not that fun. It's not that fun. But then when you get to a state of like, oh, this feels great. I'm healthy. I'm gonna, instead of spending my money right now, I'm gonna put it in a 401k thing, whatever. And then suddenly, oh, it's like, that's the way it is with everything good.
Yeah,
or I'm gonna sit here and work on this skill and now it's not that fun and I want to do something else, but now I can do this and I have a career.
Delayed gratification. And I was getting this mental image of like people sitting around at a party when you're talking about how loud these things are. Mm-hmm. That some of the people there at the party are very loud, and they're just, maybe they had a little too much to drink and they're pounding on the table and they're shouting about whatever it is. And then you have these sweethearts who have really good things to say. And part of their sweetheartness is to say, well, he seems to feel strongly about this. We'll let him make a lot of noise right now. That's okay. And then they'll wait until, he passes out or something. Then they'll just say, you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Keep it up. Or some little thing. And they're quiet, but...
Yeah, there's no,
but they're so sweet. They won't interrupt the noise,
There's no pithy wise quotes that are like, why the truly wise man talks a lot.
No, it doesn't say that. That's right. There's a bunch of proverbs that say, no, hold your tongue and all that.
And I'm realizing, we're sitting here talking
a lot
ad nauseum on this podcast, but I feel like we're a victim of the circumstance. They got these microphones here. It's irresistible.
Yeah. What can you do?
Okay. So again, we're still not through this quote, man. So this is talking about how do angels, so when you're in the angelic state, when you're in the heavenly state, how do you experience peace? This is what it says. Exhilaration of mind when they perceive the union of the two. Still, it flows into all the acts and thoughts of their life and makes itself known as joy, even in outward form. Peace varies in quality and quantity in the heavens, though, in proportion to the innocence of the people in any given location, because innocence and peace walk hand in hand.
Where does he get all this? And I like that connection between peace and joy. People often, that's a saying, isn't it? Like peace and joy.
Come to you and is that a song?
It must be.
Can we look that up?
You always seem to find a way to sing.
Happy New Year. And it's happy new. Okay.
That's right. Well, isn't it interesting that he said that, oh no, there's a reason for peace and joy to be together like that. Peace is actually inward. Joy is what happens on the outside. And I love how vertical he always is. It's amazing. So you get this blessedness at this high level that radiates into this goodness that creates this peace that then comes down into those pleasant qualities he was talking about in your heart and your mind, and when the two come together. But a lot of it's imperceptible, and then some of it trickles down. And when it trickles down, it comes out into this joy, even on the outside. Didn't he say that? That even all the way down, there'll be certain satisfactions or pleasures that come all the way down.
That all good feelings are like that too, I'm realizing. You know how you live with people and you love them. Everybody has their people they really love. And day to day, like you're around them and they, you annoy them and it's like, okay, but
they for some reason decide to let you know about that.
Yeah. It's not my fault, dude. But something happens. Let's say like you're worried suddenly that somebody's going to get sick or you're going to lose them or something. And then this like love rushes in.
Oh yeah.
You can feel what's there. As soon as there's any hint of like that might go away, you just get overwhelmed. Or there's moments where it comes to the surface and you feel the depth of affection.
You just forgive them for being annoyed by you.
It's like, it wasn't your fault. I was annoying.
It's so true. It melts in a second. Yeah.
And that, for some reason, that's how it is. Like that, it's in there.
It's in there.
But it's, again, it's
and
like...
it can come out in a second in the right circumstances. But so often you're just sort of slightly, you got a pot on the stove that's just sort of at a simmer with resentment, about the person's, for some reason, feeling irritated because you're irritating.
It's because I called you old earlier. I mean, is that the subtext? It's like,
I'm not actually thinking of you right now.
Oh, man.
As shocking as that may be.
Okay. So this, but also, you know how before you have very astutely pointed out that Swedenborg, his thing, his signature crossover basketball move is to take a word that you already know and to fill it out with brand new meaning. Innocence is that as well.
There's another one. Innocence was in there too. Peace, joy, innocence. That's right.
Here he is saying that to have peace, it goes hand in hand with innocence. So can you get what is innocence according to Swedenborg?
His kind of textbook definition, and it's a word that I try to comprehend because he says such amazing things about it. But at some level, it's a willingness to be led by the Lord. Like it goes with a certain humility. I think of Mary's Magnificat where she says, doesn't she say something like, let it be to me according to your word, kind of thing. It's a little bit that attitude of like, okay, we'll try it your way kind of thing. And so that just that willingness, that consent to say, okay, I'll go on this journey. I'll let you lead me. I'll be teachable. Has something to do with it.
Well, it makes total sense. If peace is contentment in God and living the kind of life that if God was in charge of your life, that's what he'd have you do, is love what's good, learn what's true, and use that to help your fellow human beings. To say, hey, what would you do in this, to be teachable? I think that's a great word for it. Of course, you can't have the peace of being contented in God if you won't let God be God. And you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. And any compelled innocence, like, okay, you're going to throw me into hell if I don't do what you say, so I'll do what you say. That's not innocence.
That's
because
not it.
God doesn't throw anybody into hell.
Right.
This is, again, Swedenborg talks about hell. This is another word that he expands on.
Yeah.
That hell is the state that's opposite to all of these. There's hellish peace, if you will, which that's the peace of crushing your enemies.
Yes.
That's the peace.
And that
go ahead.
Moment of rejoicing. Yeah. Right. At success. Oh, we came up with this plan and this strategy and it worked.
Yeah.
They bought it.
Yes. Or like game 7, we won. We all have the peace of heaven. You guys lost. Right. We all have the peace of hell. You all lost.
You're
Not that you can't. But if that's it, if the joy is in, I'm winning. I'm better. I'm getting gratification. I'm powerful. Whatever that is, you can go and do that. You don't. That has hell in it though, because what it does is it destroys innocence within you. It destroys actual peace. And you'll never be at rest in that state.
Part of its joy is, look at the other team. Look at them. They're crushed. They can't even stand up straight. They can't even look me in the eye.
Yeah.
Like they're so humiliated.
Yep. I mean, it's great when you get it. But
it's so fun. It is truly enjoyable.
But that is not what God is into. And it's not what goodness is into. It's not what love is into.
No.
And so innocence is letting, even though my own self-will or my own ego would try to go in those directions, I'd rather ask, like, what would love do? Which is the same as asking, what would God do?
And this image of innocence in little children that Swedenborg talks about a lot, that's just an image of something. They almost can't help it. But it's an image of the innocence of wisdom that he talks about, where as you age and you make actual choices, that playfulness and that trust, and children really do have some states, childhood is very difficult, but there's some states where you just You're just playing. You're just having fun. You're not worried about the stock market. You're not thinking about the election. You're not, whatever it is. You're just playing. You're lost in this play.
Yeah.
And that state is possible even for grown-ups, that kind of wise innocence. So something about being connected with the Lord has that spontaneity in there too, creativity and exploration and fun, just sheer fun, I think.
Yeah. When I'm a kid, I got my mom and dad, and they're going to lead me, and I'm going to, okay, whatever you say we're doing. Little babies don't even know where they are. They don't know that they're at the zoo. They just, we're here, and what's that thing? I'm going to look at that. For a grown-up to be said, I'm going to be led by divine love and wisdom, and that's what's going to move me through life, and not by love of self, love of the world. That's that innocence.
Yeah.
Hello, audience. You're getting a little break from Curtis and Jonathan to get to hear some Curtis and Jonathan talking to you about a very important thing, which is that the Swedenborg Foundation, that's the not-for-profit organization. What do they do?
They make this content possible. It really would not be possible without them.
We are
and
them.
They couldn't do what they're doing without you.
So this is us. It's hard for us to say, but we need your help. Would you consider, there's a link in the description, you can make a donation that goes right to supporting this program, the translations that Jonathan's team is working on, many things that are helping Swedenborg. There's not that much stuff plugging Swedenborg out there. We're trying to do our part. We can only do our part if you are willing to pitch in and make it happen. So thanks for considering.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And as your reward-ish, we're going to send you back to Curtis and Jonathan. Okay, so we talked a bit about what is peace. I mean, we've started building that. Like, we understand it a little bit. But let's talk about where peace comes from. How do you access peace? What in what factory, in what region in the cosmos does that stuff get made?
And who is Swedenborg's competition? Like, who else gets into these questions? Where does it come from? I mean,
we are answering questions nobody asks.
That's right.
Which is a winning strategy.
It's our specialty.
But if you think about it, of course. What's the? How do you build the thing that everybody wants?
Yeah.
Let's go. So this is, okay, I'm going to read two quotes. This one is just kind of a cap on what we're just talking about with innocence. This is Heaven and Hell 285. There are two things at the heart of heaven: innocence and peace. We say that they are at the heart because they come straight from the Lord. From innocence comes all the goodness of heaven, and from peace comes all the delight of that goodness.
Huh. Okay.
Heaven and Hell 286. First, we need to say where peace comes from. Yeah, we do need to say that.
Okay.
Okay, and here we go. Let's get technical. Let's load up on a ton of world-changing concepts just right in a row. Okay. Divine peace is within the Lord, arising from the oneness of his divine nature and the divine human nature within him.
Such an odd thing to say.
Yeah.
The whole idea, first of all, which is really a foundation stone to what Swedenborg's talking about, that the divine and the human can in any way be connected or be one, that there could be a unity between something that's everything. It's like saying,
that's the divine.
I want to have a relationship between the number line and a half or something. It's like,
and a teacup.
How are you going to build that relationship? And the idea that not only that these two things can be connected, but that it's almost like a nuclear reaction or something, that it creates this everlasting peace, just this fountain, inexhaustible source of peace from that connection. It's just amazing.
And I didn't see that coming. Like, that's where peace comes from? It's the unity between...
Yeah, if I had to guess, that wouldn't have been my top 20 guesses.
I want to say what I think he's talking about, and you tell me if you think that I'm saying what he's talking about.
Okay.
There's two parts to God, or you can say it that way. Like with us, there's the soul and the body. So there's like all the knowledge you've ever had, all the feeling. There's like your consciousness, and then there's your form,
your physical flesh.
So with God, there's the the divine, which is this infinity of everything, all wisdom, knowledge, power. And then there's the human, which is like Jesus, which is the part of God you could interface with.
Yeah.
And those two, something about those two things uniting and loving each other, hanging out, that's the ultimate, like, that's where peace starts. Something about how those two things love each other and are there with each other, that's peace.
And I'm also struck by the idea that getting there was not peaceful. The crucifixion wasn't peaceful. Everything Jesus went through, the temptations, all these things. And Swedenborg says there's way more than you just see in the surface of Scripture. A non-peaceful process in order to become peace itself. And when that finally fuses, or whatever you'd call it, I just picture this kind of some transformation takes place, and this peace radiates out from there permanently. That was successful, and that it was the ultimate landing.
I feel frustrated because I'm like, well, I want to do a whole show on this now, but we got to do the show.
Yeah. Okay.
And also I don't know how to give enough background to everyone listening to get that. I think that was Swedenborg's challenge as well. He'd always have to cross-reference. Go read this. Go see this thing.
Go read all this. Then you can understand my next sentence. Yeah.
But because what you're saying is that the Jesus Christ, why did God do that? So according to Swedenborg, Jesus Christ is the God, the infinite God, is like, I'm gonna come down and be a person and hang out with everybody. And he lived this kind of quaint, mysterious, or the purpose of his life was mysterious. It didn't seem it seemed like you biffed. You whiffed on that. You're miffed on that. And
it wasn't a super long life. His ministry was 3 years. Died in his early 30s.
And what he didn't do that much.
And when he died, there were still Romans. There was the oppression still existed.
One of his 12 followers betrayed him. The people that he had been there sitting preaching to, they all said, "Nah, we want Barabbas instead of him." That's what, if you knew beforehand, God is going to come into the world. The world needs a lot of help. What's he going to do? Think about what God's going to do when he gets here. And he does that.
Yeah.
But what Swedenborg is saying is that by those steps that have all this mystery and incredibly resonant meaning on all these levels, one thing that did was unite this human with the divine, and which is the source of peace. One thing that did is, through some physics that we can't understand, made it so made this ultimate peace factory that now is what's given peace to everyone. That's a good thing to do.
Yeah, and there's scriptural support for that in the sense, doesn't it say, of the increase of his government and peace there will be no end?
Yes.
Which is a prophecy in the Old Testament, the Hebrew Scriptures, but it's, from a Christian perspective, is talking about when Jesus is going to come. This is what will happen. That this won't just be peace. This will be increase, everlasting increase. It will keep increasing the amount of peace.
It doesn't seem like he did that, because if you just look at the stories in the Gospels, it's like, well, no, he just got crucified and then never came back.
Or get news or something like that. There's not an excessive stifling amount of peace in the world.
Right. But if actually now there's this uniting that is the thing that creates and sustains heavenly peace, all the peace that's occurred since then and will occur is coming out of that source. Oh, I can see the increase of that. So this was all the first sentence of that quote.
Yeah, good.
So the if you go all the way back up the supply chain, where the place where it's being manufactured is the union of the divine and the human. But then the divine quality of peace in heaven this is the first time people encounter it.
And heaven, by the way, being lower than, full of the divine, but there's the divine is above the heavens. So now we've stepped down. Often Swedenborg does these kind of hierarchical, okay, so you've got what it is in God. Now we come down to heaven. What is it in heaven? And I don't know the answer.
I'll tell you. I'm going to tell you.
I'm dying to find out.
The divine quality of peace in heaven comes from the Lord, arising from his union with heaven's angels. Okay, let's stop there. His union with heaven's angels. So you have the Lord being the full God. So you have the union of the divine and the human, and then you get into heaven, and it's the union of the human, which is the only thing we can unite with, the divine human with the angels. That's the peace of heaven, is that those two things love each other, and they're dwelling together.
And again, it reminds me, like, isn't there something in John about, so that he says to the Father, Jesus says to the Father at some point, so that they may be one, even as we are one. Right? Like it's, so there's this connection. And then, okay, let's bring, which was the whole point, so that Jesus was, so that God was more accessible. Now we can connect with angels in a new way.
Well, I never thought of that. But that seems to be exactly what that's talking about. So Jesus talking to the Father, according to Swedenborg, there's not two different God people.
No.
This is the human part of God, communicating or communing with the divine part.
With the divine part.
So the whole number line coming down into a place where a human being can understand. So Jesus is saying, let's be one with them like you and I are one. That's exactly what Swedenborg is saying here, which is that there's this unity of the infinity with the access point. Mm-hmm. And then the unity of the access point with angels is what creates their peace. That's exactly what is that. Did you already know that, or did you just think of that?
No, it just popped into my mind.
Dude. Okay. Then it says, so that arising from his union with heaven's angels, and specifically from the union of goodness and truth within each angel.
Okay.
So now you got a mini version, like you had the divine and the human within God, and then the Lord in heaven, but then within each angel, the goodness and truth, which gets back to that piece we were talking about before, where what is heavenly peace? It's when you have love of what's good in your heart, and you have the knowledge you need to go and act on that. That's where so in heaven, the reason there's peace is because the feelings you have, the feelings for good, the drive to do what's good, unites with the knowing of how to do what's good, and then you go do it. That's where peace is and comes from. It steps down in these layers that reflect each other. I'm telling you. Okay.
Yeah, I can start to see now why he said it's not what you think. That peace is not sort of the cessation of war or being relieved of anxiety. Yeah, that's a little bit more than.
These are the sources of peace. We may therefore conclude that peace in the heavens is the divine nature intimately affecting everything good there with blessedness. So it is the source of all the joy of heaven.
And I guess the implication is, if that's the source of peace, he's talking about even for human beings in this world and after we've died. And so it's coming down from these connections higher up.
Well, we were just sitting here talking about how it steps down. You got it on the God level. Then it steps down to the God with heaven level. Then it steps down to the union of the good and true within each angel. Well, there's a union of heaven with the human race.
Yes.
That mirrors that. And that's where all your good thoughts and your good feelings come from. Well, you're plugged into heaven. That through this, what was I going to say, like Rube Goldberg machine of all these different things. That's where you get your love. That's how you connect to God, is through that. Because again, you can't interface with God as his full power.
Right.
You got to have it tamped down a little bit.
A little bit.
You got to have a voltage adapter.
That's right.
So there's that same thing then happening with, we're part of that. He doesn't mention it here, but we're part of the same chain where the peace of, just like there's peace within God and there's peace within angels in heaven, there's a peace because we're connected to heaven and through that with God. And then there's a peace inside you, which is when you have the same, your love and your truth inside your heart and mind come together to make you do what's right and good. That's where peace comes from.
And you become part of this unseen community of peace, like this whole structure of peace.
You, at that point, literally, the spiritual part of you is hanging out with angels in heaven, and you are connected to the peace that they get from God. So as a source of all joy in heaven, he could go on to say, it's the source of real joy in the world too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And probably other things like creativity and playfulness, as we were talking about before. And yeah,
because you're on
good qualities, all kinds of good qualities.
You're on team heaven at that point. Anybody anywhere who is enjoying trying to do what's right to make things better for the human race, everyone's on the same team. That's the state of heaven. So you're doing the same thing that the angels are trying to do, and that's the same thing God is trying to do. When he wakes up and, like, I don't know, checks his notifications and says, what am I doing? He knows that the agenda for today, if I look on my calendar,
same as yesterday.
Right. I remember. Now it's all coming back to me now.
Yeah.
Bring the whole human race into happiness.
Yeah.
By whatever means we possibly can.
Means possible.
So if I'm doing a mini tiny version of that, and it's not really coming from me, it's coming from God through me.
Yes, right.
In spite of my own efforts to wreck it by bringing selfishness and materialism into it. If I'm on that same path, then I'm on team heaven, and I'm in a little state of heaven there.
Yeah.
So the peace is like, I'm with the program. I got with the heavenly program.
I'm in the right place. I'm hooked up.
So you were before connecting this in all kinds of cool ways to the way that the Bible is written. Swedenborg does this in
really?
Heaven and Hell 287. You might say this is his hobby, is connecting the stuff he says to the Bible to try to show you, I just got this out of there. This is not me making stuff up.
Yes.
I'm not starting something new. This is there.
He actually saw this in those stories. Yeah.
Because these are the origins of peace, the Lord is called the Prince of Peace.
He is. That's true.
Okay, song number 2. The everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. The Prince of Peace. Oh, we're going to get hit with a copyright strike because they're going to be like, that sounds exactly like the recorded version. You must be playing the recorded version. He's called the Prince of Peace and says that peace comes from him and that peace is in him.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, those beautiful quotes about peace and wanting to give his peace to the followers and so on.
My not as the world gives, do I give to you. My peace I leave with you.
My peace, yeah, that's right.
So too, angels are called angels of peace, and heaven the dwelling place of peace in the word, because peace means the Lord and heaven, and also heavenly joy and the delight of goodness. Greetings in ancient times were, and consequently still are, peace be with you.
Yeah, I think people still say that sometimes, or sign off in an email or whatever. Peace. Yeah.
Yeah. Your generation made that up. Peace.
Yeah, that's right. We had a lot of that going on. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about there's a commandment in the Bible where you're supposed to be peaceful for one day out of the week.
Oh, right.
So that has to do with this. It's a symbol of heavenly peace. This is from Heaven and Hell 287. Since peace means the oneness of the divine itself and the divine humanity in the Lord, and the union of the Lord with heaven and with the church and with everyone in heaven, and also with everyone in the church who accepts him, there's so much stuff in a row. Luckily, we've had this whole episode to try to load in what he's talking about, what the heck he's talking about there. The Sabbath, because of all that stuff, the Sabbath was instituted as a reminder of these matters and was named for quietness and peace. It became the holiest symbol of the church, which is why the Lord called himself Lord of the Sabbath.
The Lord of the Sabbath. That is amazing. So he kind of encoded it even in our week, like it's in the calendar.
You got to be somebody. You got to be somebody to get that there.
You know, yeah. Who has that power? And it reminds me of because this was instituted when the children of Israel were still wandering around in the wilderness, that even though they weren't to the Holy Land yet, they still stopped every seventh day and rested and rejoiced and enjoyed that Sabbath peace. Because it's part of a picture of, there's a destination, but you can also, in fact, you need to have it. It was commanded, right? You need to have it along the way too. Here's this rest. I want you to get a little sense of, because it's going to be a long journey. It's going to take a while to get there, but don't wait. You only have to wait 6 days at the most to get a little slice of this, a little piece of it.
Dude, it's vision casting. It's vision casting. If you're leading a company or something, you're supposed to say, remember everyone, as we're building our factory things, this is where we're going as a company.
Where we're going.
We're going to open up a second factory and so, and we're going to help our customers here. God is saying through the institution of that ritual, but then through what Jesus is saying about, don't worry and all that. Remember what this is all for. This is all for you to be happy and peaceful. Yeah. And that's the goal. That's what's driving this whole thing is I want to get you all happy and peaceful. That's actually, he's a pretty stand-up guy. Yeah. Because you think about if you're reading like a political thriller or something, and you think like, or like a documentary, it's like, what's the real agenda here? What you put on this phase, but what's your real motive? What are you trying to do? Oh, they're trying to make a play to take over this thing. Oh, they're trying to get rich off of this thing with insider trading. The Lord's secret agenda. God's, if you're like, okay, what are you really after? We've uncovered this. Look at this. We went through his dumpster. We found his diary. It turns out what he's really trying to do is have everyone be happy and at peace. Like that's it. That's what's pushing him.
Thought that, which frankly somehow escaped my notice, even though I've read a little bit of Swedenborg and a little bit of the Bible, but the fact that that's what you should be doing on the Sabbath is reflecting on that connection in God, that oneness, and then that connection with the angels and that connection with people. That is what we're talking about. Like, I don't know.
So
that's powerful.
So I can make a Sabbath for myself. And again, Sabbath is a state of mind, just like heaven is a state of mind. This is something that can be done whenever. I'm not saying it's not cool to have rituals and things.
Sure.
That's a great time to do it. But I could do if you want to have like what's a pocket knife of Sabbath or a little portable Sabbath kit. I could do that just sitting here, say, okay, just remember, God. There's so much peace in God that somehow what is infinite and divine and what is finite and human in God, they come together and they love each other. And there's peace in those two different things coming together and just dwelling together. They love each other. Then from that, I know that God wants to give that to human beings. And so in heaven, where he's drawing us all toward, there's this peace of like this direct connection between God and people. They're all people love God, God loves people. It's great. They're in heaven. Then I'm connected to heaven. Heaven loves me just as much as God loves, because that's God's love coming through. So I don't know if these are the exact words you would say, but so heaven loves me. Okay, and the point of it all is this peace that God is working every single moment to lead me towards. I should be trying to find ways to extend that peace to other people, align my life with that.
Yes.
I'm in the Sabbath. This is it right now. That's great.
That's good. That's good.
Okay, so yeah. Give me the practical. How do you do this stuff? What do we do? Like, I don't want to know what
it sounds okay. It sounds okay to have this peace.
The peace and all that.
Yeah.
The heavens.
I'll consider trying it.
What do we do here now? What do we do here now while we're on earth?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's a first tip. If you're looking for heavenly peace, your focus determines whether or not you can have this peace. A focus on goodness can receive the peace of heaven.
Focus. That's so interesting.
A focus on evil cannot receive the peace of heaven. Here's proof.
That's amazing. Okay.
This is Heaven and Hell 290. Peace actually flows in from the Lord into the very core of such individuals. So he's talking about people who are in the state of heaven or loving what is good. And from that core comes down and spreads into their lower natures, causing peace of mind, relief of the spirit, and a consequent joy. Those are people who are focused on what is good.
Wow, that was nice. Can you say that last little bit again? The relief of spirit?
Relief of the spirit and a consequent joy.
Yeah. That can come down, like under the right circumstances. That can totally come down.
Well, no, because you feel that sometimes. This is why I would assume I can speak for you. This is why we sit hanging out over these Swedenborg books. Just like I think you were saying that at a talk you just gave, someone's like, you've been into Swedenborg for 50 years? Why are we doing that? It's because you come across a description of how things work And it gives you a little bit of that. It reframes how you think about your life. It reframes how you think about other people and what's going to happen to you and everything. And you feel this relaxing.
Yeah.
Of okay, all these monsters under my bed, the shadows in the closet. I don't actually have to fear those things. The things that I thought were really important and I had to stress over, I don't. There are good things coming. It gives you this sense of relief of the spirit.
And they don't have to win. Like they may tell you, we're going to win. We've got you.
Yeah.
But they don't have to win.
They don't. And they won't. Actually, the odds are stacked against the things that are trying to attack you, because ultimately peace is what
they're actually helping you, move you in the direction of peace, because everything that happens is allowed because it's heading you in that direction.
It's tough. It's tough
yeah,
to
I'm
go
suddenly
against
thinking
providence.
of another scripture that doesn't it say, I think it's in the beginning of Luke, that when it's prophesied about the Lord coming, he says he will guide our feet into the way of peace. That's part of what
That's nice.
That's why he was coming into the world. And feet meaning our outer lives. Like it's got something to do with how you do finances, how you live your life, how you treat other people. Just guide our feet, even the feet, guide our feet into the way of peace.
Is that talking about when he comes again, or what's that talking about?
No, just the first. I think it's Zacharias who says it, because he has a prophecy about John the Baptist will be like this, and then Jesus will be like that.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's what he says.
That's what I'm talking about. So when you go from your regular life, you're pre-believing in God, and specifically, like, let's learn about God from his human manifestation as Jesus. You have a certain way you think about life. Like maybe you've heard that stuff and you don't care about it. A certain way you're thinking about life. But then when you start to think, oh, actually, like, God is taking care of me, this is how life is, that guides you into the path of peace. Like slowly, but that's why you stick around it, because you're like, wow, thinking about it that way solves all these problems that I thought I couldn't solve.
Yeah.
That's actually better. That seems better than... Okay, so what are we even talking about? Okay. Oh, yeah, we're talking about the people who get relief of the spirit and a consequent joy.
Yes,
you're focused on what's good.
Right.
Okay, so that's what you can... All that...
Relief. That's such a great word.
If you're focused on what's good. For people engrossed in evil, though, there is no peace. There is an apparent calm, tranquility, and pleasure when they get their way.
Yep. We've talked about that. Yep.
But this is outward only, with no inward substance. Like, oh, I love you when you do exactly what I want you. We're in love because I'm getting exactly what I want. This is great. We're all having fun together because we're doing exactly what I want.
Yeah.
But it doesn't last, and it's not real peace.
It's not a state of inner peace.
No inward substance. Inside, there is raging hostility, hatred, vengefulness, cruelty, and all kinds of evil cravings. Their spirits rush into these feelings the moment they see anyone who is not on their side, and it bursts forth whenever there is no fear to restrain it.
And don't you? I mean, we can see it in our own spirits. We can see it on TV shows, movies, whatever, that if that same person who, I love you because you're doing what I want, and then they say, yeah, and I have another idea, which you may not like. It's what? That second, like that love is gone.
Yeah.
Really? You're not, so you don't support me. Okay. Well, then I'm your enemy, and you don't want me for your enemy.
That, it made me think right away of mobster movies.
Yeah.
Like this is the what are they? The mob. We're friends. Vincenzo. I don't know. Right. But like, you double cross, like, we're all friends. Oh, you double cross me.
Yeah.
And that's like how they establish the character.
Yeah.
Is to show that you're all friendly, but as soon as you cross them, they're ruthless. And that's part of how they...
There's something else is the real core of this thing.
Yeah.
It's not that friendship.
So that's not peaceful, and that's not good.
No, and I don't think that creates peace in their lives, and I don't think that helps them create peace in other people's lives.
Well, because peace is the loving of what's good and the pursuing of what's true and a willingness to be led by the Lord.
Yeah.
So that's the only place you find it. You don't find
definition. You just like rattled that off.
Yeah. I don't know where it came from. Maybe the whole beginning of this podcast, but it's a pretty good one. It's a pretty good, succinct. Okay. This is now talking. So you have to have the right focus.
Yes, your focus, meaning the whole kind of direction. What are you thinking about? What are you aiming for? What's your goals? right? Where are you
Yeah.
going? What's
Yeah.
most important to you? All those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, when that's focused on something heavenly, you're eligible for peace.
Yes.
Not when that's focused on just a pure world of self and revenge on your enemies and or worldly accumulation and all that, without any sense of I want to benefit anybody else. I just want to amass, or I'm happy to take things away from other people.
Yeah, your goal supersedes how well things go for you. So if you got the wrong goal, doesn't matter if everything's coming up Millhouse, as they say, on your way to your goal. You got the wrong goal, it's going to make you miserable even if you get your goal in the long run.
Yeah.
But if you got to focus on the good goal, then you can get peace. So if you can get that first thing right, we're at least starting to try to live my life where I'm pursuing doing what's right by the way that I understand God wanting me to do it. Then peace starts to develop in deep within you. And Swedenborg says this in Heaven and Hell 288. Heavenly or angelic peace occurs in us when we are attuned to wisdom because of the union of goodness and truth, and therefore see ourselves as contented in God. And because of the union.
That first little bit blew my mind, just the idea that angelic peace could be in us, that we have any kind of access to that is amazing, right?
Yeah, like I can run that software.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't know that was possible.
So when you have the union of goodness and truth, therefore you see yourself contented in God. So when you're trying to do what's good and you know what's really going on, you're contented in God. Like you just can't escape that conclusion.
And you can even tell. You see that.
Yeah.
About yourself.
However, as long as we are living in this world, that peace lies hidden in our depths.
Okay. Yeah.
Still, it is unveiled when we leave our bodies behind and enter heaven, because then those depths are opened.
Yeah. Okay.
So we alluded to that earlier. Also, another thing about peace, if you're looking at your life and how does it develop, before we're talking about the story of the children of Israel, which is symbolic of the story that goes on in each of us, where they're trying to get to the promised land, but there's all these challenges along the way. Actually, right after things go badly, your peace gets stronger. Like once you get out on the other side, the inner peace in you is stronger. Or that's what Swedenborg says. Heaven and Hell 289. When a union of goodness and truth takes place within us, which happens principally after trials by temptation, we come into a state of delight that arises from heavenly peace. That peace is like the morning time or dawn in spring, when, once the night has passed, all things of earth began to take new life from the rising of the sun. The dew that falls from heaven spreads a leafy fragrance far and wide, and springtime's gentle warmth makes meadows fertile and instills its charm in human minds as well. It's like Shakespeare. This is because morning or dawn in springtime corresponds to the state of peace of angels in heaven.
It's not only poetry, it's correspondential poetry. That's really beautiful. Partly because of that image in there of winter. Like there's kind of an implication.
Yeah.
There was a winter. It was bad. Swedenborg went through some winters, literally, when he lived in Uppsala. They had a couple of really severe winters that were so bad that the wolves came into town. Like the wolves are starving. They come into town. It's like they want to eat the kids or whatever. He'd been through some intense winters up there in Sweden. And so spring comes. Everything melts. There's this joy, like we made it. And it also made me think of the Exodus story that I've been thinking about a lot in this podcast, that a little while ago I got to edit the passage where after the whole interchange with Pharaoh comes to an end and he tries to attack but is not successful, and all the soldiers end up in the sea and all that. Then there's this rejoicing that happens on the shore, tambourines, and they're singing songs, and it says, wow, because they see that this thing that was their mortal enemy is over. This is a different kind of vanquishing of your enemies.
Yes,
but like they see that, that's not only not a problem now, that will never be a problem. Like I'm past that,
Peace doesn't come from vanquishing your literal enemies, like the humans that you don't like.
Yes.
It does come from vanquishing or being protected from your spiritual enemies.
Well said. Well said.
That's right. You got spiritual enemies because it's everything in you that is blocking you from the state of peace. We already said you're focused on evil and falsity. You can never have peace.
Yeah.
So the things in you that make you want to focus on what is harmful and what is false, that is your enemy. That's the enemy within. And when these spiritual temptations happen that Swedenborg is talking about, that is a point in your life when I guess God realizes, like, all right, I think he can handle this now. Like we can get this thing out. Like we're ready to treat this condition. So all those evil influence, all the hells rise up against you. God's there using the whatever truth and love you've built up recently, pushes those back. And you just feel like, oh, my life is going crazy right now, but I'm going to hang on to these principles. I'm going to try to do the right thing. And then after that's done, those enemies are gone. Like that part of hell detaches from you, and you grow closer to heaven. Everything's good.
It's just a level of satisfaction. And it's interesting that in the biblical story, they're told to celebrate this every year with the Passover. That's part of it. It's like, remember. There's a lot of emphasis on remember. Remember where you were. Remember what that was like. Yeah. And then remember what God did for you. And now how's your life? It's better. So that's a source of great joy to see these things that used to have an absolute hold on you, and just see them as nothing, like they fall away.
And you don't always remember that. It's good to remember, because you'll forget pretty quickly.
You'll forget. Oh yeah.
What spiritual principles and what when you're going through difficult things, or at least when I think about God a lot more.
Yeah.
Oh man, I really need. Hey, I'm back. I would, like, things are going pretty well for me, so I kind of wasn't thinking about it. But now, hey man, like, are you like? Help. Can you help me out here? It's good to remember that in the good times.
Yeah.
But you might say, like, this is weird. Why would you have this cycle of there's a sort of spiritual battles that after that is when your peace increases? That's how everything is like. This is the third time in this podcast we've said these principles reflect the way everything else works. Yeah. So for this one, it's like, yes, dawn comes after darkness.
Yes.
Every day, by definition, it gets dark and cold, and then the sun comes up and it gets warm and bright. The seasons do the same sort of thing. There are cycles like this all over in nature. There's cycles in exercise. You go through exercise, it's not that fun, and your muscles are sore after, but then it's building up and you're getting stronger. Everything works like that.
The first few days when you start a new program, like, okay, I should walk every day. And then those first few days, like, I do not want to.
I was not made to walk. That's not what natural. I was made for. This. No. What is this? This abomination.
And then after a week or two, you're cooking along and enjoying it.
That's right. Yeah. Yes. I'm like, I could get used to this walking. I see why I learned to do this when I was 3. The one thing that you can do, probably like the most effective thing you can do to gain peace, is to try to work on trusting in the Lord. Because innocence is a willingness to be led by the Lord. If you don't trust the Lord, how are you gonna? If you have a blindfold on and someone's walking you around, if you know that person, if you can trust they're really paying attention and they won't like, haha, this is fine, I'm gonna run you into this bush, you can walk pretty fast.
You'll have a very different experience. Yeah. Than if you don't. I don't know you. I don't trust you. I don't know where you're taking me, what you're doing to me.
And when you come across a spiritual teaching coming from the Word that tells you to be a certain way, and you think, well, that doesn't, like, I kind of want to, are you sure? If you trust that and say, all right, I'm going to take that even over my inclination here, or my impulse here, or my, like, I just want to do this thing right now. That takes trust as well. So this is what Swedenborg says, and it's a great quote for us to end on here. He says, within peace, this is Secrets of Heaven 8455. Within peace, you see, lies trust in the Lord. What does that look like? Trust that he is in complete charge, takes care of everything, and leads it to a good ending. When we believe this, we are at peace, because we then fear nothing and have no worries about the future to disturb us.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's really, really beautiful. And I think it's a process to get there. It's not a quick thing, because like if you meet somebody and then they say, hey, do you want to ride around with me in the car? Well, you don't know what kind of a driver they are.
No.
You don't know how that's going to go. But if you ride with them, every week or something, you go to an event together and stuff like that, gradually over time you realize, no, we've been through this a number of times. I've seen them in bad situations. I've seen them in rain. I've seen them at night.
Yep.
Like they really know. They're taking good care of me. They drive well. It takes a long while, to feel like God is a decent driver. There have been times in my life, some of the hardest things I've been through, where I had this mental image of God as this crazy taxi cab driver who's smoking a cigar. And he's telling you, don't worry, I do this all the time.
I gotcha.
And I'm thinking,
like, aren't you
I
watching,
don't see anything about this that looks okay. Yeah, you are not. And right, just careening along these roads with no guardrails and even flying off the side of one. And then, don't worry, I do this all the time.
At first, you hop in God's taxi and you're like, pushing the brake where the brake pedal would be from the passenger.
Yes.
You're grabbing the handle.
Braking.
Okay, all right, all right, watch the road.
I don't trust you. And yet over time, just through repetition, like getting through that experience for me was a big deal, because it truly was okay. It was painful, but it truly was okay. And it gave me a lot of blessings that I didn't have before, And over sheer repetition, you just start to realize, no, I do. I think it's why these old folks are oddly happy, is because you start to learn that you can trust the process, even if your body's falling apart. Something good is happening within all this. That this has a point. It's going somewhere good.
Look what he says. Trust in the Lord consists in. Trust that He is in complete charge, takes care of everything, and leads it to a good ending.
Yeah,
it's not to say, oh yeah, that taxi driver's, you're never going to bump. Like, I'm not trying to say things don't hurt in life.
Right.
The trust is that it's going to be okay. Not that it's okay now, but that, because that's, of course, not everything's okay now. Of course, not everything's okay now. There's stuff that's terrible to go through all the time.
Yeah, and there's stuff that, if it were at all possible, the Lord would take that away.
Yeah.
It's not His will at all. He's not pleased that it's going on or whatever, but He can still work with it to get to this goal.
Yeah. And that's the way that His life was. The life of Jesus Christ. He had a lot of stuff.
His ideas, I think I'll go through monstrous physical pain. Yeah, and public humiliation. That sounds good.
There was all kinds of things that He had to endure, but turned out okay.
Yeah.
Turned out okay. That's what's going to happen for you. That's what the trust is. That's
where the
in
peace
the
comes
end, it's going to be okay. I trust that it's going to be okay then. That's the start of heavenly peace. And a heavenly peace, I guess, is the freedom of knowing it's going to be okay. So I'm going to be released from the iron grip of all my concerns for self and my life. And I'm going to instead use that energy to help God make everything okay by living a life of love for the human race. That's where the peace starts to come in, because you're part of the team that's making everything okay.
And maybe I'll even get to be a little bit of an angel in somebody else's life while they're going through this same bumpy ride.
Yeah. And ironically, by trying to make them have peace, you get
peace.
The peace.
That's right.
Good, man. This has put me in a very peaceful state.
Me too.
Given me a lot to think about. Thank you for hanging out and talking.
That was fun.
Everybody watching, listening, thank you for doing that. Hopefully some of these concepts stick with you and you get some moments of peace here and start building that, not just any peace, but that heavenly peace, to which then all the things in your life that happen regularly, sometimes things will go your way. Sometimes there will be calm. Then that stuff is genuine because it's linked to this deeper peace.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
All right. Then I feel like we can let this episode rest in peace.